adventure in Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
You call me Mr. Midnight, honey darling, that's my name. That time is the right time.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio. I'm here with our next guest who, man, they have some killer music. We're going to talk about their new album. And, you know, we're lucky to have them today because they're in Oklahoma, kind of like it is here in Florida. We were supposed to talk to them the other day, and Mother Nature would not have that happen. So now Mother Nature's happy with both of us because neither one of us have any storms, which is very rare, especially here in Florida. I mean, we have a storm 3 to 4 o'clock. You could set your clock by it from April till November every day. So we're blessed today to have Steve Harris from Hillbilly Vegas on the show. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, good. And I love the name of your new album too, A La Mode. Yeah. As somebody who is a chocoholic and sugar addict, like that, that's the first thing I think of. Like, that's a pretty sweet band.
That's right. That's what it's all about. You know, I did a French magazine interview the other day, and they wanted to know, because to them it means something totally different. And I said, well, yeah, to me, it means you see somebody coming around with some ice cream on top of your pie. So those are good times. So no doubt.
Like, I love that too. You know, when you have different languages and different things have different meanings to them.
Yeah.
You know, I got laughed at once because our studio, up until recently, for like 18 years, was in Wellington, Florida, which is a big equestrian community. Mm-hmm. And we had somebody that did a show on our station. They were Argentinians, and they were talking about the whole equestrian stuff. And they would come into the studio, and they'd have like this green herb that they were doing stuff with. And I heard them talking, and I thought they said mota, which in Spanish, in Mexican Spanish, means pot. But really what they were saying was mate, which is this Argentinian herb that they make tea out of that they drink like all day long. So they were preparing this, and they laughed at me because I walked down like, you can't do that shit in the studio.
You can't do that here. What, drink tea? Yeah. Yeah, language barrier is fun sometimes.
I know, right? But you know what's cool about it? Is that there is really not much of a language barrier when it comes to music. Like, you go perform in these other countries, they don't speak a lick of English, but they can sing your lyrics right back to you, no problem.
And I hear all American songs in the stores and restaurants and everywhere overseas. So, you know,
it's wild.
Listen to.
It's wild too to me because, like, I do festivals all over the U.S., UK, and Europe. And when I go to Europe to do festivals, and I'm driving down the road, I feel like I'm back in the 80s.
Yes. It's wonderful though, right? It's great. I mean, the fans are just rabid, you know, and it's amazing to experience that overseas. They just think of it a whole different way, you know.
It's amazing for a few things, man. First of all, like, yeah, a lot, like, I was in the height of the Sunset Strip days in LA with all those bands, and a lot of the bands, they disappeared off the face of the earth, I thought, until I started doing the festivals in Europe. I'm like, holy shit, they've just been in Europe all this time.
Oh, listen, I just did a festival. We just did a festival in Europe with Wasp and Lita Ford.
Nice. So Lita Ford's been in our studio because she lives here in South Florida.
Right.
And Chris Holmes and I, and he's not in Wasp anymore, obviously.
No, but we hung out with him in England just recently too. Chris is a good guy, he's a friend of ours.
Yeah, I saw him for the first time in like 40 years at Hell's Heroes. And I used to hang out with him at the mall. Him and Mick Mars, we used to hang out at the mall. So
hey,
it is cool though, man. Like, and then when you go to these festivals over there, I always do like the dedication to these people. Like, people over here make all the complaints if their like campsite isn't the most plush thing in the world. And these people are walking for like 5 miles with all their camping gear just to set up a tent.
I know. I love it. I love the way they react to music and the way they are about it. So loyal and everything. And of course, you know, it has its challenges, obviously, but it's not the people. The people are great.
But I will tell you, I have all the festivals I do. One of my favorite ones, especially the camping part, is Rocklahoma.
Rocklahoma is right down the road from us. From where I'm at
Yeah.
right now, it's about 90 minutes from me right now. Yeah, Rocklahoma. I've never been.
Really?
No, I don't want to spend 3 days outside in the summertime. I'm not interested. I live here.
Right? Exactly. That's same for me, like here in South Florida. But man, that campground is insane though. Like they have actually literally this local strip club has a big site. And so at the end of the day, after the headliners, there's a strip show out in the campground.
There you go.
There's like all kinds of shenanigans. It's pretty wild. I'm
People lose
surprised.
their minds when they camp.
I know. I'm surprised that they had, since you're Oklahoma based, they haven't invited you to play that festival because I think you would
They
fit
did.
right in.
We've been invited a couple of times. You know, unfortunately, it always interfered with something else that we were doing.
Yeah.
And so it's just never worked for us. But yeah, we've been invited a couple of times. And I think the last time we were invited, we were actually out on tour with Ted Nugent. So
Nice.
so we couldn't go back and do that. But yeah, it just the couple of times, just like the old South by Southwest, we missed that a couple of times because of scheduling as well. So we've missed a couple of them, but we played most of them.
Well, there you go. And so tell us about this new album. How is it the same? How is it different from stuff you've done in the past from you as the artist? How do you look at it?
I just look at it as a continuation. I don't look at it as any different than, you know, one of my favorite things that was ever said in rock music is somebody was trying to be rude to Angus Young and said, you know, AC/DC's made the same album 12 times. And he said, no, you're wrong. We've made it 14 times. So I wouldn't say it's the same album, but I would say it's the same us. It's like a continuation of a story or a continuation of anything. You learn more, characters change, perspectives change sometimes, but it's still you. And so it's, you know, at the core, it's still us. Got some different influences in the band now, some guys that are new to this album. They've been in the band the last couple of years. And so they bring a different story to things, but it's all our story and it's all character driven. And just like TV shows and things like that, new characters come and go and things like that. So you just continue the story and let their experiences and their perspective have a piece of it too. So I would just say it's a continuation of what we've always been, you know?
I love that. See, because the way I look at it is a true musician doesn't necessarily change. They evolve and just get better.
Sure. And truly, I don't want to change. I like what we do. I just want to make sure that we do it the way that we feel good about it and the way that we want people to hear us. And as long as we do that, I'd say the biggest difference this time is that we didn't go to a recording studio. We didn't have any producer helping us on anything or input or anything. We did it all by ourselves in our own studio, produce everything. We just did it ourselves. There's no
Nice.
there's no outside influences this time. I would say that's the biggest difference if there's anything.
I think that's the beautiful thing about nowadays, right? That you as an artist can make it sound exactly what you like. Unlike, you know, like I think of Metallica and when they did Kill 'Em All, that they couldn't even go in for the mix and have any say in the mix of the album. And I'm thinking the artist should have all the say.
No, and normally that doesn't happen. We've been there too quite a few times. That's why we got out of Nashville, because, you know, I listen, I have no problem with Nashville. It's not for us. I mean, it's a machine there. It's a factory. And there is, along that assembly line, there is jobs. There's writers, there's producers, there's engineers, there's studio musicians, and there's some guy at a label that tells you everything you're doing is wrong. And so if you interrupt any of that by writing your own songs or playing your own instruments or wanting to self-produce or any of that, they suddenly don't like somebody being taken off the line, because that's how they make their living. You know, it's like Pittsburgh and steel, Nashville and music. It's just a business. It's a factory city if you really think about it for music, and it just didn't work for us. And so first album we did with that label in Nashville, we left, thought we had a really good product, and when we got the finished product, it had studio musicians and studio background singers to it and things that we never even heard. And that happened to us a couple of times, and then finally we said enough of this, and we're not doing that anymore. And you know, oddly enough, we've had our biggest success since we got away from all that kind of stuff.
I love hearing that, because we need true musicianship. It was getting away from that. I think it's starting to come back, you know, people like yourself and other people that are taking a stand that, like, hey, this is how I want my music to sound. And I think the artist should have that creative control.
Well, sure. And if you listen to our album, everything is a first or second take. We didn't go any further than that on anything on the entire album. The rhythm section was recorded together live. My vocals are continuous vocals, all of them. There's not a vocal on there that went past 2 takes, and most first takes were just sound level takes. And we don't use auto-tune or any tricks or tracks or anything like that. It's how we are. And I know some of it sounds pretty smooth, but that's just what we made. But it was recorded that way. Even though it was done on Pro Tools, we recorded it as if we were using 2-inch tape by doing continuous takes instead of piecing words together here and there, and things like a lot of those guys do. A lot of times, especially vocally, they want you to sing it 5 perfect times, and then I'll pick out a word from each version to make up a sentence. And it feels so sterile and so not real anymore and created. And so I don't like doing that. So I didn't sing anything 5 times. In fact, I sang 5 songs. A total of 5 times would be 5 songs.
Nice.
To be honest with you. And if I hit a wrong note or something cracks in my voice, you know what? God must have wanted it that way, so I left.
Well, I think about some of my favorite albums from the past, and there are definitely mistakes on there. Like even Zeppelin, that scream he does on the Presence album, that wasn't on purpose. He was in pain because he broke his leg in the accident, and he stood up. You know,
well, listen, and the same band. How could Led Zeppelin be Led Zeppelin? Those albums be those albums without the squeak and John Bonham's pedal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And we used to think everybody in the 70s put that wooden block in there. That was actually their metronome going back and forth, and they just left it in there, you know, because now we take the click tracks out and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, that's all that stuff was, and it was natural, and you heard it like they wanted you to hear it. You know, those guys were champions going in there and recording that 2-inch tape, and you can't just punch in and out of everything and do the things that people do today. You know, today somebody can sing one chorus and they'll plaster it on the song 5 times. And so you're not getting anything different in the song. You're getting the same exact performance 4 or 5 times through the song, because they just sing the chorus once and just paste them in, you know. And listen, that's fine. People want to create music. They should create however they want. For us, that feels horrible to me. You know what I mean?
Even with doing what I do, and when I'm doing voiceovers and stuff, if I do it like different takes that are pieced together, it doesn't sound right because you have a different tonality. The tonality is different unless you're continuous. So I'll just keep going, and you cut out what you want to cut out, but I'm keeping going.
Right. And I just think there's something to doing it the way that it was intended to be done. And there's nothing wrong with technology. You can still use technology and still do it the right way. So
no doubt.
I mean, we try. That's what we try to do. We try to be as authentic about our music as we can, and it wasn't a budgetary thing because we had unlimited studio time. We could have taken a year to record this thing if we wanted to, but we recorded it in 6 days.
Oh man, that's amazing. That is the art of a true professional musician that could do that, for sure. So hats off. to you.
Well, thanks. I think unfortunately that's also code for you're getting old and you've learned some things, so you might as well use it now, right? There's this sweet spot when your brain and your body line up. When you're at your intellectual best and you're at your physical best, and there's a very, very short period of time when you're in that window, and so you have to take advantage of that when that happens, and that's happened for us lately, especially on this album.
No doubt. So I also want to talk about, I like to talk about, artist passions outside of music. And I love that you make your own jewelry. Tell me about that.
Well, I wouldn't say it's good enough to sell to anybody. I wouldn't want anybody expecting it that close. I don't know, man. I like to have stuff that is just mine. I mean, you can go on Amazon and say turquoise bracelet, you get the same turquoise bracelet. And listen, there's nothing wrong with that, but I see so many guys out on the road wearing those same bracelets and the same things and the same concho things you see on Amazon or you see in the store or whatever. I don't know. I want to be different. So, I remember when I was in 7th grade, I took leather work, leather class, and I learned how to do that. I thought that was so cool. I made it 20 wallets, and some coasters, I think. It's what you make in there. But it just got me thinking about it. It's just creative. I like to make necklaces. I like to make my bracelets and my jewelry just because I like it to be original, look different. And to be honest with you, I end up giving away most of it over the course of a tour. Somebody will say, "Oh, wow, that's really cool," and I'll take it off and hand it to them.
Nice.
And so then I come home and I get to make a whole bunch more. And listen, it's partly selfish. I give a lot of things away, but I like it because I get to come home and make more. Then I don't have any excuse. I need more.
And then those people, they love it because they have merch that you couldn't get anywhere.
Yeah, and it's usually, I don't know, it's if I make a connection with somebody, through hearing their story or talking to them at a meet and greet, or sometimes it's backstage and some guy will, "Hey, I'm the promoter of this. It's so good to meet you. I love that thing you're wearing. Here, you can have it. Thanks for having us in it." So it's just something. My wife, she used to hide things from me, band memorabilia from me, because she said, "If I don't, you'll never have anything to show for this. You don't have anything left." But she gave up on that because I just told her, "Listen, I don't care about keeping stuff. I don't care. I would rather have the memory of seeing somebody smile when you give it to them or whatever. I'm not one that's going to, when I'm done doing this, going to be sharing it on Facebook. I used to look like this. I used to sound like this, when I'm 70 or 75 or whatever, trying to relive things. People might not even know I ever even did this when I'm done with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I also love the fact that you work with military veterans, because we've done a lot with that on the station throughout the years. And my son's almost 20 in the military. And I think the vets need all the help they can get. So I want to hear a little bit about about the organization Operation Vet Now.
Okay, I'll tell you about them, and I'll start with how I came to Operation Vet Now. My brother-in-law, Garrett Spencer, he's a retired command sergeant major. His son, Jackson, just graduated from OU Law School last Sunday. He's a officer now, and he'll be working in Washington D.C. and I'd like to tell you where, but anyway, he's in the military and everything. And Garrett, when he retired, he met Tony at Operation Vet Now, and Garrett is on their board of directors, my brother-in-law. And I never met anybody that was a better soldier and a perfect example of a soldier than my brother-in-law. And now his son, they're both just amazing. And I just thought, if they're part of that organization, I want to be part of it. And Operation Vet Now, they mostly just, they're just really about camaraderie. They take care of their guys. They do it through music. A lot of them get together and just jam, you know what I mean, and play music together. They do rides, and they just want to make sure that they're there for each other when they're at home and dealing with things that only they can that they know about, obviously. Yeah. And those guys, I can't pretend to even know what they've seen and what they've had to do the last 25 years that we've been, involved in things overseas and what have you. And so I think it's a great organization. And so we've always been pro-vet because there's veterans in all of our families. But I will tell you, there's something very special about the way that that they help each other in the way that they look out for each other and take care of each other and make sure that they're good to go back to their families and they're have some place to talk and have a good time and just forget about some of that stuff and just bond with guys. And so, to me, the greatest thing you can do is help people get past some of the things that they've done and make them feel better at home. And so any small thing that we can do with Operation Vet Now, they always know that we're going to be there. I believe they're based up in Pennsylvania. And so they come to shows when we travel in the Northeast and things like that. And they're just a bunch of really good guys.
I love it. I love hearing that because, there's good organizations, there's bad. As you probably know, there's a lot of political between the vet organizations. They all like to fight with each other. And it's like, man, you're all on the same page, man. Work together.
I know. We got involved with a couple of them in our past that we wanted to be involved with. And unfortunately, we found out that they were more about fundraising and less about helping. And so we backed away from those things. And once we found the guys at Operation Vet Now, we knew they were genuine. We knew they were the real deal and that they really care and that they're in it for the right reasons. So that's our organization. Those are the guys we're going to work with and stick with.
Nice. That's very cool. And, so I also want to talk real quick about Mr. Midnight. That's a badass song, by the way.
Thank you.
But you got Paul Rogers helping out with that. And that's pretty cool. I assume that happened because of your other new band members and their connection to him.
Yes, partly. Geraldo's been in the band for seven years. But before that, and well, actually even now, Geraldo has been a touring member of Loverboy since 1988. And Paul Dean, the guitarist of Loverboy, his solo band, Geraldo was in that with him. And so in the 2000s, Geraldo started doing gigs with Paul Rogers in his solo band. And then Todd, who actually started in Paul's solo band as well, and then has been the bassist for Bad Company since 2011 or so, something like that. Yeah. And so he's the second longest tenured bassist in their history next to Boz, the original guy. And so, when those guys came to the band, obviously there was a line of communications that we could use if we wanted to. We didn't take advantage of it really much because there was no reason to. But the other thing is we also share a manager with Bad Company and with Paul and David Spiro. And David's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's Joe Walsh, Cat Stevens, and Dickie Betts, and I mean on and on. David's great. And so David and Paul have been business together for decades. And so Todd said, hey, I got this song that we were doing in rehearsal, getting ready for Midnight Rose, the album Paul just recently did a couple of years ago. And he said, this one kind of got lost in the shuffle and we didn't end up recording it. Just listen to it, tell me what you think of it. And he sent me an MP3 of a rehearsal recording that was made by a phone, and I'm listening to that thing and I'm going, my God. Paul Rogers doesn't even sound like a guy in a rehearsal room with a phone. He sounds like the guy on Rock and Roll Fantasy. He sounds like the guy I Feel Like Making Love. He sounds amazing in a rehearsal room on a phone, man. And I'm listening, I go, wow, and if that's as far as the thing went, just to hear Paul in a rehearsal room, I was thrilled to just be a part of that little fly on the wall moment. And Todd said, what do you think about doing that song? And I said, well, I think that for you guys who are just playing the music, no offense, but that's no pressure for you guys, But if I got to sing something that Paul wrote and that I just heard him sing, we'll see how we do. But luckily, I'm not afraid of anything. So I said, yeah, let's give it a shot. So we put it together. And I talked to David, our manager. I said, hey, can Paul sing on this? And he said, yeah, I think he would. He said, let me send it to him. And Paul loved it. He said, that is fantastic. He said, they don't need me to sing on it. It's great. But he said, but we want you to sing on it. And so Paul, he put his vocals there and sent it back to us. And to be honest with you, when he sent it back, I would say we sat in the truck and listened to just that little section that he did. Where am I at right there? Just that little section that he did probably 20 times in a row, not the whole song. Okay, let's hear that again. It's just one of those things, a little fanboyish at the moment, but once we got used to it, it just felt really cool to have Paul come in and knock out this really cool line. And it's his song. And he said he was really kind of disappointed that song got lost because he really wanted it on that solo album. But if it couldn't make it there, he was really happy that it ended up where it has. And so then Paul and I exchanged some emails, and he was really, really lovely guy. And
I love hearing that.
And yeah, because he's far away from me. He's in Vancouver. He's in Palm Springs, I think, in the wintertime in Vancouver area, Canada, for the summertime. And so he and I became kind of pen pals for a bit. He's just been a really great guy to get to know a little bit, and way more down to earth than you'd expect one of the greatest rock and roll singers in history to be. But I guess that's why he's made it as far as he's made it, because he's a good human being.
That is what I say all the time, because I've done over 3,000 music interviews, but I've interviewed icons, and they're almost all of them are down to earth. Like, they don't even have any idea that they're like this legendary icon. They kind of do, but they don't act like they do. They don't think about it. They're just them.
Well, I can give you a little insight in. I'm no icon, obviously, but I can give you some insight on that. When you're in the middle of the bubble, you don't know really what's happening around you. You're just doing your work. And it's always a big surprise when you find out, oh, really? I told Paul, I said, for me, I wasn't of the age group for Elvis and Ed Sullivan and the Beatles and all that stuff. I mean, I love the Beatles. I love Elvis, don't get me wrong, but I didn't have the life-changing moment like a lot of those guys, like Paul did when he heard Elvis, or like when he watched the Beatles on Ed Sullivan or whatever. But for me, I told Paul, my Ed Sullivan Beatles moment was when I heard you for the first time. And I thought, that is what I want to do. That is amazing. And he said he couldn't believe somebody thought of him that way. And I was thinking, how can you not believe somebody thinks of you that way? But
right.
It's a perfect example of what you're saying. You know what I mean? Because when you're in the bubble, you don't know. You don't know. The most surprising thing to me is, we've had 4 top 20 and now a top 10 and a top 12 single in America, and 8 of them overseas. And I don't even think about it. I don't think that people know anything. And then you see them lined up to see you 4 hours early at a venue, or you see the first 40 rows of people singing your lyrics back to you, and you go, wow, how do they know that? And then you're like, oh, how do they know that? They've heard it. And so to me, it's the same thing. I'm always surprised. I'm like shocked. You know what I mean? But I see 400 or 500, 600 people right in front of me singing along, and the other 1,000 kind of, going with it too. But I guess you just kind of get insulated, and you don't really know what's going on like that. You know what I mean?
And I even add to that. I just think because those are the people that are in it to become musicians, not rock stars. So they don't give a crap about the whole rock star thing. They just want to play their music.
Well, the rock star thing is very short-lived and fades very fast. And a lot of people, like you said, a lot of bands you think are gone, you don't realize, hey, there's a band I loved in the late 80s, early 90s that I thought disappeared, and I found out they're in Europe all the time. And that's Little Caesar. Do you remember them? Yeah,
I remember them.
I love that band. They were fantastic, and they're still cranking it out overseas. I had no idea. So, I mean, the rock star part, when they're in America on MTV all the time, that kind of fades, but the working musician part, it still goes. You lay that foundation right, and you can do it for a long time.
There you go. And my first concert, my first was Beatlemania, but I don't count that because it wasn't actually the Beatles. But my first concert was Loverboy opening for Journey. So you mentioned Loverboy. It took me right back there, 1979, I think it was.
All right. All right. And listen, those guys, we were just recently with them and not playing with them. We just went backstage and hung out with them when they came through Oklahoma. And Mike Reno and Paul Dean have been just amazing friends to the band. They call when we're on the road. They'll call us and just congratulate us on the new single. Like Mike Reno just recently called us and said, hey, man, love the new song. Congratulations. And we hung out with them backstage when they were in Oklahoma, and they were just the sweetest guys, and they've been very supportive. And yeah, they're iconic guys because they've just kept working. You know what I mean? They just keep work, and that's and they sound amazing. I'm telling you, they sound amazing. I was just in awe of how much they sound like their records still. Mike, you know, I know they tune down, but they do it in a smart way. You can't hardly tell. If you're not a musician, you can't tell. And Mike hits every dang note. And I asked, because I can be a little bit, you know, inside baseball, and I'll tell you because I know you won't mind. But I asked, I said, is he using any tracks or anything? Not a one.
Nice.
Even on what's that one that he hits that? He hits that huge, incredible note. Is it Turn Me Loose? I can't remember, but anyway.
Is it Working for the Weekend?
No, Loving Every Minute of it. He hits this incredible high note and Loving Every Minute of it on the album, and by God, he hit it live too. And so those guys, they work, they still sound great, and they are just fantastic. So
there's some like that.
Yeah, there is.
You know, there's some that aren't like, you know, listen, one of my favorite bands ever is Slayer, but Tom can't hit those notes he hit in the 80s when he was screaming. He just does the growl now. But then I saw it last year at Hellfest, the Scorpions, and Priest played too. I thought the Scorpions blew Priest away. Like, they were so good. It was amazing.
Yeah. And that, well, I'll tell you another one is Ted Nugent. We spent 2.5 months with Ted on the road, and unless you told me what his age was, I would have no idea. I ended up, we got along really good with Ted. He's just a music encyclopedia and such a good guy backstage, and whatever his outside personality is, I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about the musician.
Yeah, who cares anyway?
And,
you know, that's usually bullshit.
You know, and what I'll tell you is that he's not one of these guys who wants you to be terrible opening for him. He wants you to be great. And when he heard us after the first night, he gave us the same dressing rooms that he had, the same catering. He let us use his crew, lights and sound, everything. Didn't throttle the lights and sound, none of that. And then I ended up, the last month of the tour, I ended up singing with Ted every night, going out and singing a song with him. And what I can tell you about that guy is that when you're standing next to Ted, there's this incredible vibration, this heat, this energy. And I would have never believed it if you just told me about it. But when I stood next to him every night and sang next to the guy, you could feel this energy and this heat. It's just, I can't even describe it, you know, coming off of that guy. That was just like amazing. It was like electricity. You could actually feel it standing next to him. You know, he and I still shoulder to shoulder on singing. It's just like this voltage is going through you. The guy has such energy, and he whips into Stranglehold or Cat Scratch Fever. Or
I was going to say, did you catch this Cat Scratch Fever when you were saying about the heat? That's exactly what I was thinking.
That must be what it is. I don't know, but you felt this energy with him. You know what I mean? And it's just one of those amazing things. And listening to him play every night, and then I mentioned one night backstage, I said, man, you know, I love Dog Eat Dog. And he said, you know what? We'll play it tomorrow. And they played it the next night. Oh, it was badass. You know what I mean? And so no, those guys that still do it at a high level, there's just a certain amount of energy inside them. And like I said, my long explanation is that he has that energy too, but you can actually feel it radiating off, you know.
Wow.
So very strange.
See, I love hearing that. I love hearing that, because forget all the hate on any artist for any reason or whatever.
Right.
I've found that artists are just normal, down-to-earth people that happen to play music.
Most of them are, yeah. You know, you run into some of those guys that think highly of themselves, but
I think those are the ones you were referring to, though, because that's how I grade the ones that were rock stars for one song 20 years ago and still think they're a rock star today. Those are the ones.
And they wear their Halloween costume from the moment they get up in the morning until the moment they go to bed, and they can't go out without it. And it's always like they're ready to go trick or treating, even when they're walking into McDonald's or something. You know what I mean? And God love them if that's what they want to do. I don't have the energy, man. You know, I like these guys that just get up and act like regular people, and then they take their lunch pail and they go to work. You know what I mean? And that's really, it's all the same stuff, no matter what line of work you're in. You got to go to work. And you come across a lot of guys that do it right. And, you know, I'll tell you another one, Uriah Heep. We played with those guys overseas, and those guys are freaking amazing. You know, such nice guys and just such a band. And a couple of the guys, I think the singer's the same one since '85, and the guitarist is the original guy. And wow, I'm not well versed on Uriah Heep. I'll be the first one to tell you, but I will tell you this: what a joy hanging out with those guys and playing with those guys and just spending time with them. Such nice guys. You know,
See, I love hearing that stuff. You
yeah.
know, I think the listeners need to hear that. It's like one of my favorite interviews ever, and I've interviewed them 3 times, is Leonard Skinner, because they're just good old boys. And like, they're laughing through the whole interview. Like, it was just like, they were just having a good time, man. They have no clue they're Leonard Skinner, you know, they're just having a good time.
Look, man, this ain't real life anyway. This is just all make-believe, made-up stuff anyway. So we might as well smile and have a good time through it, right? We get to do something that is completely absurd if you think about it. What we do, it's goofy, but
right,
people like it. It's fun, you know.
Hey, and more power to you, because I played drums, I played guitar, and I sang at thrash metal, and I sucked at all 3. So the fact that you can be doing this stuff and giving us great music, I always like. I tip my hat to musicians like you, because it is not an easy road for sure.
No, it's not. But I guess musicians have this mute button when it comes to getting kicked in the stomach or getting knocked down, because we don't seem to feel it. We don't seem to notice it. Yeah. You know, my wife said to me years ago, she said, "I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you stand it. You get knocked down all the time, and you never even seem to notice it. It drives me crazy." And I don't notice it. If you did, you wouldn't be able to do it. And of course, you get disappointed, but you have to be a forever optimist to be a musician in the first place.
True story. True story. Anything else you want to share with the listeners we haven't covered yet that you got going on 2026?
No, you know, we're getting ready to go back out on tour, I believe, towards the end of July, and it'll go through November in America, and then we'll be overseas in early 27, back over there again. And the reviews for the album have been very good. I think that makes me so happy, because you don't decide what you are, the people do. You don't decide what kind of music you play, people decide. And so we've been very, very fortunate that people are playing the songs. Radio has been great to us, and I just want to thank everybody for listening, and thank you and all the people in the media who have been so kind to us and have let us share their air and talk about what we do, and appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you for giving us great music, because it is great music, and everybody needs to check out A La Mode, get the new album, get your merch, find out your tour dates, all that stuff, and support you guys, because you guys kick ass.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you very much. Had a great time today.
Thank you very much, and thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.